I'm Sophie, and for the last couple of years, I've been watching my husband, James, slip away bit by bit. When the doc first hit us with the stomach cancer news, it felt like someone yanked the ground right out from under me. James was just 32, killing it as an investment banker, and we had our awesome 8-year-old kid, Liam, lighting up our lives. We figured we had a lifetime ahead of us, plenty of years to chase dreams together. The one silver lining in this mess was James's money from his job meant we could chase down top-notch doctors and treatments without blinking. We jetted off to experts all over, gave wild new therapies a shot, and threw everything we had at it. But as the months crawled by, I started seeing it was all just delaying the inevitable. No cure in sight. Through the whole ordeal, James's folks, Margaret and Thomas, were like our lifeline, steady as rocks. Living just 15 minutes down the road, they jumped in to help the second things got rough. Sophie, we've got Liam after school today, Margaret would tell me when James had a treatment lined up. And don't stress about food. I've got a big pan of lasagna ready. At bedtime, Liam would grab my arm as I tucked him in, his big eyes full of hope and worry, asking, "Mom, when's Dad gonna be okay?" I'd fumble for words. How do you break it to a kid his dad's not making it? So I'd just run my fingers through his hair and mumble, "The doctors are doing all they can, buddy." My own parents, though? Total different deal. Patricia and Richard, my mom and dad, lived just as close as James's folks, but you'd think they were on Mars. "Mom, can you grab Liam from school? James's chemo's kicking him hard, and Margaret's tied up," I'd ask. "Oh, Sophie, sorry, hun, but we're helping your sister hunt for a new place today. Emily's a wreck without us," she'd reply. Always Emily. It's been like that since I was a kid. At 8, they skipped my school play 'cause Emily had the sniffles. When I walked at high school graduation, they bolted after the handshake to catch Emily's dance thing. She was just in the back row anyway. I got used to it over time. James became my real family, and his parents treated me more like their own than mine ever bothered to. So, when James took a bad turn last month, I steeled myself for the end, leaning on the family that actually picked me. The night he passed, I was right there, holding his hand. His breaths got shallow hours earlier, and the hospice nurse had warned me it was close. "Sophie," he rasped, barely a whisper, "look after Liam. You're tougher than anyone I know." That was it, his last words to me. I stayed there for hours, gripping his cold hand, trying to wrap my head around losing my partner of 10 years. Margaret and Thomas showed up at the hospital fast after I called, their faces mirroring the ache tearing me apart. "We're here for you, sweetie," Margaret said, pulling me into a hug. "We ain't going anywhere." I shot my mom a text that night. "James passed away tonight." An hour later, she texted back, "It's terrible. No call, no, you okay?" Just that. I was too wiped to feel the sting. There was a funeral to figure out, a kid to comfort, and a life to somehow glue back together. The days after blurred by, funeral plans, stacks of forms, and me fumbling to tell Liam his dad wasn't coming back. Margaret and Thomas stuck close, making calls when I couldn't talk, sitting with Liam when his questions stumped me. The day before the funeral, I was swamped. The funeral home needed final say on stuff. Relatives were bugging me for directions, and Liam's suit still wasn't picked up. I hadn't slept more than a couple hours since James went. "I gotta ask my folks to watch Liam," I told Margaret over coffee at my kitchen table, cards piling up around us. "You and Thomas are already hauling too much." I drove Liam to their place, practicing my pitch in my head. Mom answered the door, jacket on, purse swinging. "Sophie, lousy timing," she said, not even letting us step inside. "We're heading out." "Mom, please, just a few hours. I'm buried with funeral stuff," I begged. Dad popped up behind her. Sorry, kid. We've had plans locked in for weeks. Can't ditch 'em. Before I could push, they were out the door, locking it. Find someone else, Mom tossed over her shoulder. They peeled off, leaving Liam standing there, baffled and bummed. I called my buddy Olivia, who said yes in a heartbeat. After dropping Liam off, I swung by my parents' place on a hunch. Lights on, Emily's green Toyota in the drive. So that's their big plans, I muttered, a sharp laugh slipping out. They weren't busy, they just picked Emily over me, even now. That night, I threw a message in the family WhatsApp. James's funeral's Thursday, 10 a.m., Tranquil Haven Chapel, reception after. Read receipts popped up by Mom, Dad, and Emily. Crickets. The night before the funeral, I couldn't shake the jitters and rang Mom. You saw my text about tomorrow, right? Kala money? A long pause. Sophie, we can't make it. Emily's got tables booked at Emilio's for her promotion, noon, and we're in, she said. I almost dropped the phone. Mom, it's James's funeral. Guy who fixed your roof 4 years back. Part of us for over a decade. That was ages ago, she shot back, ice in her voice. We're here for the living. Emily needs us. Click. She hung up. I dialed Emily, hands shaking, mad as hell. So Emily picks up the phone, and right off the bat, she sounds ticked, like I'm some nuisance ruining her night. Hey, Jess, Mom's telling me you've got this big party tomorrow, same time as James's funeral, I say, trying to keep it cool. Any chance you could shift it around? Maybe push it later so they can at least make the service? She snorts, like I just asked her to move a mountain. No chance, Sophie. I'm locked into this reservation. Everyone's RSVP'd, and this promotion's a huge deal for me. What am I supposed to do? Reschedule a funeral bash or something? A funeral bash? I echo, my voice climbing, 'cause I can't believe she said that. Emily, my husband's dead. The guy who footed the bill for your whole college ride. She brushes it off like it's ancient history. That was forever ago. Look, my promotion's a bigger deal than some funeral. People kick the bucket every day. Then, bam, she hangs up on me too. I'm just standing there in my kitchen, phone still in my grip, totally floored, like someone sucker punched me. Then, to rub salt in it, my phone pings. Mom texting me, quit bugging your sister. Her party's way more important than some funeral. She's earned this promotion with hard work. The day of James's funeral rolls in, all sunny and bright, which feels like a sick joke against the black hole chewing me up inside. The service itself, though, it was simple, beautiful, just how James would have wanted it. Nothing over the top since he was never into flashy stuff. That little chapel was packed with folks who really gave a damn. His work buddies, our neighbors, friends, and his family at least. When I got up to give the eulogy, I talked about how generous James was, how kind he could be, and how he'd do anything for our boy, Liam. Liam sitting there between Margaret and Thomas, tears rolling down his cheeks, and they're each holding one of his hands, keeping him steady. After it's done, a bunch of people come up, saying nice things, offering hugs, but a few ask about my folks. James's old college roommate goes, "Hey, I figured your parents would be here. Everything okay with them? They sick or something?" I stiffen up and mutter, "Nah, they had something else going on," not wanting to spill the ugly details. Margaret catches the vibe, jumps in, and steers the chat somewhere else, like a pro. That night, after everyone clears out, I'm sitting alone in the living room, surrounded by all these sympathy cards and wilting flowers, and the house feels so damn empty without James. The quiet screaming in my ears. My phone buzzes, Emily texting, "Hope the funeral went all right." Mom posted pics from my party, nailed senior account exec, party emojis and all. No sorry for your loss, no nothing about what I just went through. just her flexing her big win. I shut the phone off, don't even bother replying, and trudge upstairs to peek in on Liam. He's out cold, hugging the plush cat James gave him for his last birthday. I slide into bed next to him, letting his soft, even breaths calm me down a little. For the next week, I'm just drifting through life like a ghost, everything foggy and slow. Margaret and Thomas, though, they're over every day, dropping off casseroles, taking Liam to the park to burn off some energy, helping me dig through James's stuff when I can handle it. My own parents? Not a peep, not one call to check on their grandson, not a word to see if I'm still breathing. Then, a week after the funeral, James's lawyer, Mr. Harrison, rings me up. Mrs. Turner, we need to go over James's will. He was real careful putting it all together. How's tomorrow afternoon sound for the reading? I say, yeah, that works. Then call Margaret and Thomas to loop them in. They're named in it, no surprise, and James would have wanted them there anyway. Next day, Mr. Harrison shows up right on the dot at 3 p.m., lugging a leather briefcase, his face all serious until he spots Liam and softens up. Your dad talked about you all the time, kid, he says, giving Liam's hand a proper shake. He was real proud of you. We all pile into the living room, me, Liam, Margaret, Thomas, ready for what I figure's gonna be a pretty cut and dry rundown. James and I hashed out his plans a ton when he was sick, so I'm not expecting any curveballs. But then, just as Mr. Harrison is about to kick things off, the doorbell chimes. You got someone else coming? Margaret asks, looking thrown. Nope, no clue who that is, I say, just as confused, and head to the door. When I open it, I nearly slam it right back shut. There's my parents and Emily on the porch, all dolled up with these fake sad faces. What the hell are you doing here? I blurt out, not even trying to play nice. Mom cranes her neck, trying to peek inside. We heard there's a will reading. James wasn't some stranger to us, Sophie. We've got every right to be here. A right, I shoot back, laughing, 'cause I can't believe the nerve. You couldn't drag yourselves to his funeral, but now you've got a right to crash his will reading? Dad clears his throat, stepping up. Come on, Sophie. No point dragging up old stuff. We're here to back you up now. Back me up? I scoff, the words tasting sour. That's a good one. But before I can shut them out, Mom nudges past me, all gentle-like, with Dad and Emily trailing right behind her. We're family, she says, like that's some magic fix, and they march straight into the living room. Margaret and Thomas's faces go stormy the second they clock who's here. What are they doing showing up? Thomas mutters to me when I flop back into my seat. Beats me, I whisper, hands trembling. I'm so mad, but I'm not about to blow up with Liam right here. Mr. Harrison, cool as ever, just quirks an eyebrow and says, All right, we good to get started with the will. My parents and Emily plop down on the couch across from Margaret and Thomas. Liam's next to me in the armchair, and the air's so thick you could choke on it. I, James Andrew Turner, being of sound mind, declare this my last will and testament. Mr. Harrison starts, reading off this official-looking paper. James had it all laid out, neat as a pin. To his folks, he left 300 grand, enough to let them kick back in retirement, and a thank you for always having our backs through the marriage and the cancer mess. We never saw this coming, Margaret chokes out, voice cracking as Thomas squeezes her hand tight. Then the big stuff hits. For me, he left the house, plus 2 downtown apartments I didn't even know we had, and $400,000 in cash. Those apartments pull in solid rent money, Mr. Harrison adds. James snapped them up as investments a few years back. I'm sitting there, jaw dropped, blown away by how far ahead he'd planned, making sure Liam and me would be set no matter what. As the lawyer keeps going, I catch Mom's fake tears drying up, her eyes sharpening with interest. Emily perks up too, suddenly all ears. When Mr. Harrison wraps up, Mom claps her hands like we just won the lottery. Well, hot damn, Sophie. This is great news, right? You're sitting pretty now. The room goes dead quiet. Margaret and Thomas just gape at her, stunned. So, check this out. My mom keeps yapping, not even picking up on how thick the air's gotten. With those 3 apartments and all that cash rolling in, you've got plenty to spread around to family now. Emily's been scraping by with her rent, haven't you, sweetie? Emily jumps in, nodding like a bobblehead, all eager. Yeah, Sophie, it's brutal out there. Everything's so pricey these days, and you've got 3 places just sitting empty, collecting dust. I'm sitting there, ears ringing, barely believing what's coming out of their mouths. James is barely in the ground, and they're already sniffing around his stuff like vultures. You ought to hand one of those apartments over to Emily. My dad pipes up, calm as you please, like he's suggesting I pass the salt at dinner. What's the point of you hanging on to 3 anyway? I get up slow, hands balled into fists, so tight my knuckles ache. Are you guys for real right now? You ditched James's funeral for some party, ghost me and Liam for a whole week, then waltz in here uninvited to his will reading, and now you're trying to stake a claim on his stuff? Dad starts in, all patronizing. Now, Sophie, don't go getting selfish on us. You're on your own now, but you're loaded. Sharing's only fair. Selfish, I snap, my voice kicking up a notch, 'cause I can't hold it in. I ain't alone. I've got Liam, my kid, my world. Every dime James left behind's for his boy's future, for making sure he gets a top-notch education, killer opportunities, the best shot at life his dad can't stick around to give him anymore. I catch them, Mom, Dad, Emily, swapping these quick looks, and their eyes slide over to Liam with this creepy flicker, like they're mad at him for existing. You're being flat out absurd, Mom barks, her temper flaring. Emily's the one who needs a hand right now, not some kid who won't even sniff college for a decade. That some kid is your grandson, Thomas cuts in, his voice sharp and pissed, like he's ready to throw down. His dad just died, for God's sake. Mom's face goes red, and she wheels on him. Don't you dare lecture me about my own grandson. I've been in this family way longer than you've been around. Margaret fires back, cool and cutting. Funny, 'cause you sure haven't acted like it much. I slam the brakes on it, done with the whole circus. All right, that's it. Liam, buddy, can you head upstairs for a bit? Grab Mr. Harrison and show him those cool machines planes you've got. The lawyer's already on his feet, looking like he's thanking his lucky stars to dodge this mess, and he takes Liam's hand. Can't wait to check out your collection, kid, he says, and they're gone. Once they're out of range, I spin back to my parents and Emily, no filter left. How do you even have the guts to stroll into my house days after James's funeral, which you couldn't be bothered to show up for, and start demanding his money? James busted his ass his whole life to set me and Liam up. He fought cancer for 1.5 damn years. And where were you guys through all that? Nowhere. Not a single helping hand. Not even watching Liam for a couple hours when I was drowning. Dad tries to jump in. That's not fair, Sophie. But I shut him down hard. No, what's not fair is James shelling out thousands to patch up your roof when that storm trashed it 2 years back. What's not fair is us covering Emily's whole college tab 'cause you swore you were broke. So let me lay it out crystal clear. Not 1 cent of James's money, not 1 brick of his property is going to you. Not now, not ever. It's all for Liam, for his future, exactly like James wanted. Mom's face twists up, ugly with fury. You ungrateful little jerk, after all we've done for you. I lean in, voice low and steady. Oh yeah? Tell me one thing, Mom, one single time you put me first. No strings attached. She flaps her mouth like a fish out of water, coming up empty, and I nod. Yeah, that's what I figured. Time for you all to hit the road. The door bangs shut behind them, and I drop onto the couch, feeling like I just ran a marathon. Thomas's voice comes soft but solid. You did what you had to, Sophie. I rub my face, drained. Did I, though? They're still my folks. Emily's still my sister. Margaret slides next to me, grabbing my hand. Blood don't make family, hun. Love does. Showing up does. Being there when it's rough does. I nod, knowing she's dead on, but that old sting of being tossed aside my whole life still burns. Later that night, after Margaret and Thomas head out and Liam's snoozing, I plop down at my computer and see Mom's tagged me in this social media post. Heartbroken, my oldest girl's turned greedy and selfish after her husband passed. Won't lift a finger for her struggling sister, even with 2 city apartments and a fat bank account. Money's changed her. I stare at it, watching all these poor you comments roll in from cousins and old family friends, swallowing whatever half-baked tale Mom's dished out. Sophie shouldn't get away with this. Family helps family. Emily's always had it tough, while Sophie's handed everything. Rage hits me like a freight train. This is a new low, even for her, trying to guilt-trip me into coughing up James's cash with a public smear job. I take a deep breath, crack my knuckles, and start hammering out a reply. If Mom wants to sling our mess all over the internet, fine. I'll give 'em the unvarnished truth. I've kept quiet too long, but since Mom's dragging our private crap into the open, here's my side. 2 days back, we buried my husband, James, after he fought stomach cancer for 2 years. My parents and sister skipped the funeral. Why? 'Cause Emily threw a party for her promotion that day, and they decided that mattered more. For the record, James bailed my folks out plenty, fixed their house when the roof caved in, paid Emily's whole college bill when they said they couldn't swing it. But when I needed a hand during his sickness, even just watching our son for an afternoon, they were always too busy. Yesterday, they crashed James's will reading uninvited. When they heard he left me and Liam set, they demanded I hand over a rental property 'cause Emily needs it more than some child. That child's their 8-year-old grandson who just lost his dad. I'm not posting this to trash them. I'm just sick of being the bad guy in a story where I've only tried to be a decent daughter, sister, wife, and mom. James's money's for Liam's future, like he planned. Hope that clears the air. I tack on screenshots I'd saved. Mom's text saying Emily's party beat out the funeral, plus a bunch where they blew me off during James's fight. Then I hit post and let it fly. I sit there, finger dangling over that post button for what feels like forever, second-guessing myself before I finally jam it down. Barely a few minutes pass, and the comments under Mom's post flip like a switch. Folks are stunned. Patricia, seriously? You ditched your son-in-law's funeral for a party? One says. Another chimes in. No way I'd expect Sophie to hand over stuff meant for her kid. Those texts are wild. A party over a funeral? Come on. All evening, my phone's buzzing off the hook. Calls, texts from cousins, old pals, all floored by what my folks pulled, throwing me support I didn't see coming. Mom tries to backpedal in the comments, swearing I'm making it up, but those screenshots I posted, they're like a spotlight, no dodging the truth. She ends up yanking her whole post down, but the mess she made of her own rep? That's not going anywhere. Next morning, I wake up to a phone full of missed calls. Dozens from Mom, Dad, Emily. I don't even bother with the voicemails. Just block their numbers and call it done. Whatever they've got to say, I'm past caring. Over the next few weeks, they're like mosquitoes, won't quit buzzing around. Emails roll in, all "we're so sorry" mixed with, But could you still help us out financially? They send messages through buddies we know, even pop up at the house out of nowhere. Every time I hold my ground, shutting the door, literally and figuratively, on them for good. One afternoon, I'm out back with Margaret, watching Liam tear around the yard, and I just let it spill. They're never gonna switch up, are they? She gives me this straight look, no sugarcoating. Folks hardly ever do, Sophie, not deep down where it counts. I kick at the grass, thinking out loud. It's weird, you know. My whole life I was chasing their thumbs up, their love, busting my tail to get it. But now, Margaret finishes it for me, soft but sure. Now you see you're worth more than that. And you know Liam deserves better than running that same hamster wheel. She's right, and it hits me like a ton of bricks. 5 months after James is gone, life settled into this new groove. Not perfect, but ours. Margaret and Thomas are still our rocks, swinging by for Sunday potlucks, pitching in with Liam's school stuff like it's second nature. I've taken the reins on those rental properties James left us, and damn if I don't kind of love it. Turns out I've got a knack for it. Those city center apartments, gold mines, pumping out steady cash that pads what I'm socking away for Liam's college fund. I even took some of the inheritance and tossed it into stocks James always swore by. Feels good watching those dividends trickle in, like he's still got my back somehow. Word about my folks and Emily filters through the family gossip mill now and then. They're hurting for money, I hear. Emily got canned from her job, and Mom and Dad are griping about how retirement's bleeding them dry. Every time whoever's passing the news gives me this awkward nudge like, maybe you could toss them a lifeline? My line's always the same. Sucks they're in a bind, but my job's looking out for my boy. Some folks call me hard-hearted, unforgiving. Maybe they're right. I don't know. But then I look at Liam getting taller, laughing more every day, wrapped up in people who really love him, and I'm dead certain I picked the right road. One night, I'm tucking him in, smoothing the blanket over him, and he hits me with this curveball. Mom, you ever miss Grandma Patricia and Grandpa Richard? I freeze up for a sec, figuring out how to keep it real without dumping grown-up junk on him. I miss what I wish we could have had, you know? I say after a beat. Not what we actually got. He nods, those big eyes taking it in, understanding more than a kid his age should have to wrestle with. I'm glad we've got Grandma Margaret and Grandpa Thomas instead, he says, voice sleepy but sure. Yeah, me too, bud. Me too, I tell him, ruffling his hair. Some people out there, they'll never get why I axed my blood family out of our lives. Never felt that slow drip of disappointment year after year. That lopsided favoritism that always left me in the cold. That gut punch of realizing some folks just can't put anybody else first. But me, I get it, crystal clear. And the big win? I stopped that crap from rolling downhill. Liam's gonna grow up knowing he's enough, surrounded by people who prove they care by doing, not just flapping their gums. Folks who show up when the chips are down, who don't slap a price tag on their support, who don't look at him like he's some stepping stone to something else. That's the real deal, and I made damn sure he's got it.